Hello, everybody. We are continuing our first day of Mobile Z Days conference. We have the last talk for today, which is about decentralized identity solutions for mobile. And just before we begin, a couple of news updates. Apple just now announced their special event for September 15th, when they probably will announce their new iPhone and other devices, and we will see updates in the iOS. And well, that's probably an interesting news for Apple community. But our last talk will not be about that. We will be talking about something which is related to blockchain. And to talk about that, we welcome Sasha Pitkevich, who is a blockchain evangelist, EPAM blockchain practice and community lead. Hello, Sasha.
Hello, I hope you can see me and you can hear me clearly. Is it okay?
Yes.
Perfect.
So can you a little bit talk about how you actually end up in blockchain? So kind of interesting thing to work on.
Well, I was introduced to blockchain technology, or blockchain technology was introduced to me. Well, it's already about, well, it was 2013. How many years ago? It was 7. It's already 7 years ago. And first there was a private interest. I'm the curious person. I'm always studying. I'm in IT since, well, I was in my 10th school year. So like enormous amount of time. And I was always curious about the new technologies. And the friends of mine in St. Petersburg and Moscow once invited me to what now we call it meetup. And previously it was just like they invited me to their house and to sit in a kitchen. And there we were discussing topics very interesting about decentralization, about cryptocurrency, about how to make money and how it can change the world. And since that, I become increasingly interested in the technology. I learned a lot from the people. I was introduced to Ethereum community. I know a lot of people in Ethereum community. And this private interest grew over the time. I tried to develop in Solidity. I tried to do a lot of things, look into the business adoption. And at that moment, I was working for Accenture. And I was in emerging technology department. And slowly, that took me about a year to realize that the enterprises can also benefit from the blockchain technology. And I started to speak about that in my company, and I quickly become a technology lead, first in the country, then globally, then a business lead for blockchain, and that was unstoppable. I also was a person who talked a lot in the Ethereum community over blockchain adoption, because it's a lot of technicians who think about new crypto algorithms, new technology solutions, and I was always thinking how it can change the world. And I'm like that person who really wants to be a Batman of this life. So we are on a mobiles that day, right?
Right.
And
yeah.
I was invited to present something over the blockchain on a mobile that day. And this actually took me a couple of minutes to think, what the hell I can tell mobile people over the blockchain technology? Because, everybody knows blockchain is more about backend, about decentralization. But to access that backend, you need to identify yourself. And that took me, so I'm today going to speak not about decentralized solutions for mobile. No, I'm going to speak about using mobile technology in decentralized identity solutions. And in this case, just to set a scene, I will be speaking about turning mobile device into your passport and into your identity wallet. And that's, I think, the most obvious part where how blockchain is applicable to mobile. So let's start. And by the way, we do have sizable blockchain professionals community at EPAM, and I'm today also representing that. And we have a lot of people thinking about blockchain in every part of EPAM. So if there would be mobile people interested in a blockchain, you're always welcome. And the most likely we will start with the wallets, with the identity wallets to work with you. So the topic of today is Decentralized Identity Solutions, an approach for identity in your mobile. And we will start not with my introduction, but with the introduction of the topic. First of all, we need to be sure we agree of what is identity. And when we are speaking about identity topics, like that's kind of obvious and you can read on the screen, but I'm trying to tell that identity can be different types. And you are very familiar with the physical identity, where we are speaking about passports, where we are speaking about your certificates, like education certificate, job certificate, health certificate, anything which is either on paper, either, made of stone, which you can present to the authority which checks your identity. In the majority of the cases, that's with the picture, because while the people who are normally check your identity, for example, border officials, they're trying to understand that you, the person who is presenting the physical identity, is the person who is mentioned in this identity. And their current chance when we're speaking about the physical identity is to compare visually. There is also the increasing topic of digital identity, where you are being recognized by the number of systems, by the same border officials, by fingerprint, by the scan of your eye, by the face recognition. And in some cases, by a certain crypto signature or certain crypto stuff, which identifies you as certain account, certain person, certain individual. And there are also the new types, emerging identity. And that's normally speaks about the advanced and digital technologies applied, where we are speaking about being known by your, for example, digital footprint, by your behavior in a social media, by the summary of your actions, by, again, the digital tracks, which is publicly accessible in like your mobile phone signals, like swiping credit cards somewhere. So that's a really emergent type, and it's really aggregated. But as we are currently already in speaking about the new technologies, we also need to consider that. Then, when we know what is identity, let's see, I'm actually stating that ability to identify yourself is directly impacting your ability to function in this world. And it's from getting access to essential services, even to accessing social media. And the process of identity verification touches almost every industry, from people to supply chain, from financial services, media and telecommunications, everything. And through our lives, we have more thousands already identifiers and tens of thousands related to these identifiers. So we do have to manage our identity. And let's see what challenges we have while we are managing identity, or where the identity is managed for us. First of all, and one of the very important topics, data needs to be trusted between organizations and within organizations. And also, that's the next one is very well known for you. Traditional identification processes are not changed for decades. Like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, at the border, you were showing passport. And when you're stopped by police, they don't care. They want to look at your passport, your driving license. But the user expectations and the technology has dramatically changed. Digital life is here. I'm personally annoyed when I have to show the passport, because why you don't scan my mobile? And again, why the stupid gate doesn't recognize me now because I am as I am. They install on the Moscow metro the scanners which apparently recognize faces. Why at the border I have to show the passport? Then identity fraud is growing and cyber attacks are now new normal. And organizations and consumers need to know that your data is safe, especially because the digital cloud which is behind you is much bigger than it was years before. Also, being experienced users, and that's where it touches the heart of the mobile people, we have desired to build a much more personalized relationships and offerings with the customers. That's less in the area of the mobile device usages. But at the same time, we need to ensure that the person is really who they claim they are. And that's important. In some cases, we also need to be sure that the person claimed is actually a physical person. And I don't know how this in the mobile world, in the blockchain world, that's the huge challenge. Distinguish between virtual and real people is like, yeah, trust me, it's a task which worth thinking, because there's a second life, there's everything, like all the company's representations, all the credit cards, they can survive, like they can be represented in the second life, which is totally virtual world. And look into the digital footprint, yeah, there's no difference between a real person and virtual person. And on top of that, we're speaking about identity challenges. There are regulators, like you all know about GDPR. You all know that the governances are, like every year, are more creative on regulating how we manage those things, because they're important. And it's getting, like, it's being checked, and the importance of that is increasingly growing, and at the same time, that's expensive to manage. And we are moving further. Let's look to the identity lifecycle, because, like, we know what it is, we know why we need it, we know what the problems, and then look what is a traditional way. First of all, you need to register yourself. And that's when an applicant provides evidence of his or her identity to the credential issuing authority. If the person reliably identifies themselves, like himself or herself, the authority can assert the identity with a certain level of identity assurance. Then we are coming to the issuance, credential management. And that starts with issuance, where the process of creating and distributing physical credentials or establishing a digital identity. The other steps are maintenance, like retrieval, update, delete credentials, and revocation, which is very important. The removal of the privilege assigned to the credentials. Now we are coming to step 3, which is identity authentication. And that's the process of verifying an identity claim against the registered identity information. This information could be a personal identification number, PIN, password, biometric data, like fingerprint, photo, or combination of those. And then we are coming to authorization. And well, remember, it's important. Authentication and authorization are the different steps. Authentication is you are the person who owns the credentials you're demonstrating. Authorization is implemented and enforced by relying parties, and that's included like it's what you can do with that identity. So very frequently, authentication, authorization are done by the different parties, or they can be done by the same party again. They're checking that you are, and then they're checking, are you allowed to do what you attempt to do? And then we are coming to the last but not least step, identity management. And that's process. That's not an action. That's ongoing process, retrieving, updating, deleting identity attributes or data fields and policies So like you need to control the rights. And yeah, there are the rights. Sometimes the rights are associated not to identity itself, but to certain attributes of this identity. And this all needs to be stored, updated, managed, in some cases checked, invalidated. Like, when you, well, later on we will see, if you have like certain digital signatures, for example, that you are married, you can keep your digital signature like showing that, yeah, you are married, you have marriage certificate. But you can also get divorced. And having like the digital signature that you are married, it can be also that you were married. It doesn't mean that you are married now. That's why like all those topics there, they're not stable. They're evolving over the time. Then we are moving further, and let's look to the current trends in identity. And here we are coming to the blockchain topic. We are still not there, but yeah, there are already words blockchain on the screen. Basically, that's about future. That's where identity management is going. And we are normally speaking about identity and access management together. An abbreviation for that is IAM, Identity Access Management. And the space is actually constantly evolving. Remember the days where we thought that the length of the password would keep us safe. And by the lengthy password, we mean 8 characters. And then we started to think that a two-factor authentication in the form of SMS was like strong security method. Those days are long gone. And and the identity methodology, it's accelerating like day by day. Now we have new methods of the identity proving. And yeah, we are skipping these old-fashioned passwords, passports, pictures, and well, now we are speaking about remote proofing, social proofing, and well, and we are speaking how we can trust those methods of the identification, especially where we, like the majority of our life, thanks to COVID, is online. And well, when individuals interact online, they frequently do things that attackers would never do, like pay bills, order small items to be shipped to their homes, or send a note to say hi to the mom. Authentication will eventually be smart enough to recognize these as a context that are low risks and don't require the password. There are also many contextual places of the information that could indicate people's true identities, like the devices they use and how they interact, identification of the future for both individuals and enterprises. And it can be adaptive. And we are speaking about, keeping the history of your behaviors. And here, like behavior analytics and machine learning helps us a lot. And well, basically, well, for you, that it used to be that you like could grab a latte in the morning and hop in the cab and with no one knowing who you were. And now Starbucks and Uber have changed it forever because, well, people increasingly interact with the world in authentication context, which means that the companies will, with which they interact, will have a lot of information about their behavior. And if you're buying coffee like every morning in a Starbucks, and if you are using Uber for like a traditional direction every morning, you can we're soon expecting your mobile the advertising which relates to what you can meet on the way. Then more speaking about the mobile usage, which should touch your hearts. Currently, yeah, they say that about 52, more than a half of the global internet traffic is mobile. And well, mobile devices are now used more, and as now the primary device which people use. And that's why we're speaking about the identity wallets on mobile today. And the biometrics are being extended. Where the fingerprints, like there is no surprise in the usage of the fingerprints. Majority of you identify yourself using your mobile phone, using fingerprint. But currently, while the eye scan is less popular, and probably because of the cost of that, but currently, I recently met ATM, which was recognizing me as an account owner by the face recognition. And yeah, like the message is that a real ATM on a street was able to recognize myself and connect somehow they read from my face, and yeah, I'm not wearing glasses, and they were able to connect me to actually my card account, which is kind of scary, but it means that it's really mass adoption. And also we are increasingly speaking about decentralized approach to identity, because yeah, I will speak a lot why. And that's where we start. Because the blockchain-based identity, and blockchain is a decentralized database. I wouldn't spend time now explaining what is blockchain technology and how this chain of blocks will save the world. But I will basically say, look at that now as a decentralized, accessible database where the data can be only added and not edited backwards. So there is always audit track, and we can trust 100, like 1000% this audit track, because the falsification of that cost enormous effort. So let's look how this magic database can help us. This actually can support increasing goals by enabling greater traceability of transactions, make it easier to trace funds, and ensure the right resources went to the right people, especially when combined with biometrics. Well, it can also, like, let's first look at the trust and ethics space. It can clear accountability and governance. It could clearly say who is responsible, because remember, everything which comes to this database stays intact. We will always know, independently of the administration access, migrations, failures, we will know the truth. It's also transparent, and we can speak and we can achieve ethical use of the identity data. And there are technologies like zero knowledge proof who can do who can answer the question for us, and we can answer, like we can trust this answer without sharing the data. For example, very common application of zero knowledge proof is we can ask if the person is older than 18 years old, and we will get the answer from the system, yes, and we can trust that. But the system would never tell us how old the person. Then we can make this technology compatible with the existing country legal frameworks and systems. That's approachable for integration, and it's not that complex to integrate with. And as I already said, it provides the greater accountability for those who donor the information. And then I've been speaking about integration, interoperability. Basically, because it's a decentralized solution where a lot of companies or a lot of individuals can use the database together, that dramatically reduces repetition. Today, I've been presenting a blockchain community over the background screening, and we stumbled against the fact that, for example, if somebody is looking for the job, is applying with this CV for the number of companies, and every company does the background checks for this person. And they do that independently. It means that he applies for like 5 companies, like send his CVs, and 5 companies spend time to retrieve the same data and to do the same checks. When we are looking to that, like typical business analysts can say, well, things can be improved here, right? And blockchain technology that's easiest interoperability and that enables easy integration with the existing solutions. Because of this decentralized nature, you can integrate on a satellites, on example, like on certain nodes in a network, and then node itself, like it would be like Oracle, and the data would be coming to blockchain, but through one integration into place, the data can be made available for the whole network and can be evidenced by the whole network. So yeah, we can speak about the security of this Oracle point and basically how we can trust the data which is coming in. But as soon as the data in, we can fully trust it. What comes to the blockchain, that stays the truth. While we're speaking about standards and regulations, here I would say the blockchain technology is a bit lacking because we're definitely this decentralized usage that requires new standards to be built. And many countries are now working, like regulators are working. I've been participating in the European Commission work of the blockchain and their point of view of blockchain. And well, what is obvious that the blockchain technology actually enables a lot of new things. It can bring greater user control and ownership of the identity data, and it can provide a greater security, acting as a balance in a world of the artificial intelligence. It can create richer, high personalized experience, and it can mitigate dislocation of people and ensuring that the certain opportunities for the people. And here we are speaking about all the expensive solutions. They're not accessible for the people from the third world. And the blockchain technology is actually cheaper to implement. For example, the whole Ethereum network was designed so you can run the node on a laptop. You don't need anything elaborate to participate. And based on that, the solutions based on this technology, they're also very accessible for the potential users. And yeah, and being truly decentralized and being big enough to have enough reach, we can also access portability of ID and enable easier movement of the people. So let's look now what qualities we require for modern identity in a digital world. First of all, it has to fit for purpose. A good digital identity offers a reliable way for individuals to build trust in who they claim to be, to exercise their rights and freedom, and their eligibility to carry out digital interactions. With more and more digital transactions between people, with no pre-existing relationships and evolving AI, this process is growing challenge, actually. It has to be inclusive. And inclusive digital identity enables anyone who needs it to be established and use a digital identity, free from the risk of the discrimination based on their identity-related data, and without facing processes excluding them. For example, if you will enable something on a very expensive mobile phone only, like you have to have expensive scanners or something, it will exclude half of the worth of using that, and that's not a good idea. It has to be useful. And the useful digital identity offers access to the wide range of the usable services and integrations, like interactions, and is easy to establish and use. If you will need to jump through hundreds times, go to organizations to prove something, and then install 10 specific libraries, you will hate that and you will never use that. Well, at present, many digital identities have quite some of the repetitive interactions, and you have to repeat a lot of things, and they have a limited use. And that's where there is the room for development. Also, the really good digital identity needs to offer you choices. You have to be able, it's better that you able to maintain your data and maintain what are you sharing. It's actually where in your passport you have picture, you have information if you're married or not, you have information over the children, you have information over your registration. When the people do really people at the border needs to know that you have children or not if you're traveling alone? Do they need to know if you are married or not? Currently, you cannot manage that. You just give them the passport, and what they do with your passport, that's their business. Yeah, you cannot object if they're reading if you're married or not, right? Or if you have, like, in some passports there's like a driving license or something. So I would say you have to be in control, and also those requirements, they are propagated more and more by GDPR regulations. And, well, last but not least, your identity, your digital identity, have to be secure. Security includes protecting individuals, organizations, devices, and infrastructure from identity theft, unauthorized data sharing, and human rights violation. Such security is often inconsistent at present, in part because identity information is scattering through the digital sphere. So, yeah, very simple. It has to be fit for purpose, useful, inclusive, offer choices, and to be secure. We are moving further. When we're speaking, and yeah, we are already in blockchain space, and we're speaking what blockchain technology can give to this digital identity. And basically, when we are talking about leveraging blockchain technology for identity management, it's important to know that there are three different actors in play. There are identity owners, there are identity issuers, and identity verifiers. And please, that's probably the most important part of my speech. We will later talk a lot about how it actually works. The identity issuer is a trusted party such as local government, I don't know, medical institution, university, and they can issue personal credentials for the identity owner. And the identity owner is the user. That's either you are, either organization, either device. Important to understand that recently a lot of devices needs the identity. For example, your smart meter, which is registered in a network. Like, by issuing the credentials, the identity issuer attests the validity of the personal data in the credential. So basically, you can come to the town hall and request them to attest your digital identity. You basically go into town hall and saying, please sign that I'm Sasha Pitkevich. And they're producing digital signature, which you upload on your mobile, for example, that they are, as a town hall, have certified that they checked that I'm Sasha Pitkevich. And, well, in some cases, I can ask them also to confirm that I'm registered in a particular country and a particular city. And as they have this information, they can produce the digital signature saying, yes, this is Sasha Pitkevich with those attributes. She has a registration and she has a property in this town. And then you, as the owner of the identity, and I'm really introducing that, you are the owner of this information. And now you have this information verified and attested by the certain respected organization. And you have in your wallet, for example, the proof of this statement. And then you're going somewhere. And this somewhere is asking who you are. And instead of screaming, I'm Sasha Pitkevich, I'm just giving them my mobile where there is a digital signature, just showing them the QR code, which says that, yes, I'm Sasha Pitkevich. And by the way, that's validated by the town hall. And then, that's the whole process. That's the business logic around this. And the blockchain technology will help us to keep this data. It allows this data to be stored on a distributed way. Because try to imagine what hassle would be to keep one database with all of this and make the searches there and make that more resilient and efficient. And then I will say, okay, no way. Then it's secure. Data, blockchain data, is cryptographically secure. Like off-chain data also can be locked down by the by the specific signatures which are stored on chain and which are distributed. Like the security here is, and also the trust and tamper evidence, that's because you demonstrate to the many participants on a network that the hashes of the data you store, which means that in 10 years, 20 years, they can compare the provisioned hash and the data you have, and like, yeah, the hash mechanisms, and they can compare two hashes and say, yes, indeed, those are the data which were given at that moment. And that's why it's tamper evident. Any attempt to falsify the data or to change the data in the past will cause the system to produce the different hash data, which means that the request wouldn't match. It means that we will identify the tampering attempt immediately. So there are three main pillars where blockchain can improve things. It can keep in distributed storage of the identity, and can help with the security of that, and it can help with the tamper evidence, which is quite enough. And then we are moving to how the different type of users will benefit from that. And we are traditionally looking to the two types of the users, of like private and the business users. And when we're speaking about a private user, we're saying that the user can take their identity data with them, if that's like it's portable. And that reduces the amount of like repeated input, because once you have certified your identity, when you carry that with you, everybody who needs that can rely on this. They don't need to do their own checks. They can rely on a signature which you store. It's accurate. Remember, tamper proof, remember like hashes, we always have evidence if the data has changed. And that's private enough because you store that. Only you do not share that with anyone. The data is stored at your wallet. And then let's look to the organizational benefits. Well, that's actually increases efficiency. That decreases dependence on a manual process. That's verifiable. And data can be easily verified and shared confidentially. That's important for the businesses. No need for direct trust relationships. You can trust official organizations. There is a list of the certain organizations which you can trust, because if not, you cannot trust anything in this world. And because those organizations are motivated to keep this trust. So you don't have to have the integration with the town hall. You can trust the signature on the person's wallet who is showing the signature of the town hall. And that's also like immutability of the ledger and auditability of that. That's increases compliance. And as a summary, we can, like in 2 words, we can summarize all those benefits. That reduces risks. And remember, we were speaking about the process, how it's going. Here, you do see that on a picture. You do have those interactions in between parties. You have identity owner, which basically it carries the information. It applies for a certain identity to be verified, and the person can go to multiple identity issuers. For example, I went, like my story, I went to town hall. They confirmed that I'm Sasha Pitkevich, that I have registration in this country, and then I'm going to apply for the job. And I'm coming, where we can see that you're Sasha Pitkevich, but what education do you have? And then I'm going to the university and saying, could you please certify that I have certain degree? And the university says, okay, we can do that, but who you are? And then I'm showing them my identity confirmed by town hall, and I say, okay, based on this information, we are giving you digital signature, which satisfies that you have this diploma. And they also register those credentials in a blockchain network. And then I'm coming back to my employer and saying, okay, this is a confirmation that I have a certain degree and I'm a Sasha Pitkevich. And then I'm asking, what about your health state? And then I can go to the hospital and say, could you please certify that I have but that I'm not drug addicted? Then they're checking their papers and they're putting this record to my identity wallet, and the same, they're putting information in blockchain ledger. And I'm surprised that I still do not have questions. This is probably because you are all muted, saying, okay, why the heck we need a ledger if that's all can be achieved with the digital signatures? And my answer would be, well, yes, if your identity data is infinitely valid. If your health state would never change, or if your degree cannot be withdrawn because they found out that it was maliciously taken or something, or if your marriage certificate would be valid forever, then you don't need any blockchain network, you don't need any ledger. Okay, rely on a digital signature stored. But unfortunately, a lot of identity data evolve over the time. You were not a drug addicted, you became. You were married, you became not. You didn't have kids, now you have 3. And all this evolves over the time, which means that once obtained data in your wallet is not entirely enough. It actually very honestly tells what you were and not necessarily what you are now. That's why at the point of the identity verification, on authorization step, like authentication checks that you are is you are, and that can be done infinitely. But then you need authorization one. If you're eligible for something, or if the certificates are still valid, and that's done with the help of the ledger. And we are moving further. Like what? First, we also have like the majority of the identity vendors or identity providers. They focus, like we have this black frame, like identity vendors. They focus on identity wallet and blockchain identity management. And most likely, if you will switch of doing that, you also like it's also would be your primary goal. And then let's move to the to the practical matters, because the majority of you is currently curious of how it is. And the blunt practice, you download certain application which is called identity wallet or something, and you can already find some of this in in Play, they exist already in both an Android and Google stacks, like an Apple stacks. And but downloading the application doesn't make you own the certain identity. Then you have to register identity, and you have, as I already said, to validate the identity. And normally that's done by the matter of scanning certain physical documents, how you see that in a picture, and with like all those image recognitions and something. And in the blockchain case, with the production of like digital signature, which is shared with your mobile phone as a matter of QR codes. And basically you scan the QR code in a certain website, for example, where it satisfies that you have this piece of identification on your mobile phone. And while the procedures of obtaining that, they're different and depends on organizations. It depends also like on the nations. Like in Netherlands, we do have TGD process where you obtain something from the tax authorities. They send you paper, they send you pins and codes, and you need it one time to obtain basically the basic information of who you are, which is login, password, second type of the authentication with your mobile, in some cases digital token, but like you have to do the physical interaction one time to basically prove that you're a real person and like the certain real person. And after that, with the help of those credentials, you can obtain other certificates online. You can get the certificates from university, home hospital, many organizations. Like I'm frequently using that on a daily basis for medical insurance. I'm not carrying with me the insurance card anymore. I have mobile, and when they're asking them, I'm saying, okay, here's a QR code, scan it. And that's enough for them. Then we are moving further. Here you can see the whole process of obtaining that, where you have a mobile wallet installed, you are applying for issuing service, and your issuing service actually registering in a blockchain network the necessary identifiers and while registering the fact that you obtained this certain identity. What the heck, why we are not moving? Yeah, then authentication. And that's basically the process where at a certain moment you would like to receive certain services based on your identity. And I better move to to the process itself. And basically you are browsing, for example, something in internet, and you want to approach your company website. And you are coming to a single sign-on protected website who sends you a redirect and basically gets you to the identity management part, which produces the request for your mobile wallet. And you are retrieving these requests, and you are sending signed credentials to the identity management system. It validates authentication credentials. That's sends the respond to the identity management, so you can get that, and at the same time that reads the identifier from a blockchain. And the identity management system that generates assertion, and then browser redirects you and to the single sign-on, like to a website. Website validates the assertion, and you are getting access. Pretty similar, unless you know all those interactions, but the fact that the data stored decentrally in a blockchain, that's probably the only new part for you here. And let's see something practical. Like, we all IT people, but we all would like to know how our IT knowledge can be used in real life. And now I'm going to speak about World Economic Forum initiative, which called Known Traveler Digital Identity. And that's actually, it brings together a global consortium of the individuals, governments, authorities, and the travel industry to increase and enhance security in world travel. It's the first global collaboration of its kind that enables more secure and more seamless experience of the traveler, both the traveler and the travel industry itself. It enables consortium of the partners to access verifiable credentials of the travel identity data, so they can assess their credibility, optimize passenger processing, and reduces their risks. It allows individuals to manage their own profile and collects digital assertions and attestations on their personal data, and also allows to decide what data to share with, and when. So being asked for the data, you actually can select what are you sharing and what is not. And for more attestation, traveler accumulates that in a wallet and shares consortium partners, governments, and other parties then can then they can serve you better. For example, you identifying yourself when you're planning the trip, and then you are getting the advice, getting actually the check that if you need visa for your travel or not. And with this, with the attestation, you can apply for electronic visa. Many countries are offering that right now. And then with this visa, for example, and with the certified fact that you may have or already have a visa, you can process for the booking. And then with the booking, you can do online check-in, you can order a cab. Actually, the gate can know that you arrived at the airport already. And it can provide you, depending on where you are entering airport building, it can provide you even navigation on your mobile where to go. On-site check-in, It's also can be done with your mobile phone. Also, luggage drop-off. Already now, when at KLM, at Schiphol, I'm dropping my luggage. Those machines, they read QR codes from my mobile. Well, I never seen that being used on a security screening. But I think it's coming soon. And basically, the papers which World Economic Forum created, they actually they describes how it can be. The same for like departure gates and exit immigrations. I honestly waiting when they will rely on electronic record and not on electronic signature in my passport, because like when you are traveling with the underage kids, they do not have enough and they have to look at your face always. I'm really waiting where they would be mature enough so I wouldn't stay in the queue for like stupid looking at my face, looking at my passport, asking questions if it's really me, especially like I have a 3-year-old son with whom I'm traveling right now, and his picture in a passport was taken when he was 2 months old. What can border official understand when he's looking for 3.5 years boy, compare that with the picture of the 2 months baby? I have no clue. Then, there are in-flight services where you order either chair, either special food, either buying something, which can also be done honestly with waiving of your mobile. Arrival immigration, probably both immigrations, probably not that easy to achieve, but technically we all know it's possible. Luggage reclaim and customs. Transportation in a hotel, checking in a hotel. There are hotels who now do like mobile check-ins on the QR codes of booking and your identity. And obviously all activities and destinations. You can now see with the technology I described, this all, it's not that far in the future. This all can be achieved now. And that can be achieved by creating the good mobile applications, basically your business. And yeah, that's like another picture. And the most important in this slide is the data structure. Like all the technical professionals, they're not really, because the schema represents the same, where you have identity created, then you are validating it with one government, then obtaining the visa, validating it with another government, and then you are using all those credentials when you are boarding the plane. And this all connected to the blockchain network. So all those public officials, they're sure that it's secure, immutable. But the data structure here, it's from the World Economic Forum specification, and that basically says what data do we IP rate of achieving that. As you can see, that's not that much. Yeah. And then we are almost at the end of my speech. I'm not sure how we are in terms of the time. You can start thinking about your questions. And I will walk you through identity topic. An identity area are, I would say, the best specified and the best controlled. We have hell of the standards, and it's kind of lucky area, because in a majority, when we speak about like information transfers, data flows, there are a lot of controversial industry standards. Luckily, there are a lot of standards in identity too, but they are similar and they are well established. They are good quality. We have like V3C, which speaks a lot about decentralized identities and self-sovereign identities. And I'm encouraging everybody who is interested in the topic to go on a link. Claims, that's that's authorization. That's how you check at the point if the person providing the valid credentials. Web identity and discovery, OpenID connects, access control list, all the aspects of the identity are well specified by V3C, and it's interesting to read. Even the JSON serialization of like resource description framework is also well described. So if you are facing the need to develop the applications like identity wallet or something, you have a great help. Then coming to another standardization organization, IETF, They also have OpenID specification. They have authorization framework specification, and yeah, schema org. Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, and Yandex, they're using it. It's de facto vocabulary, a standard for things for RDF. I wouldn't say that it's easy reading. For example, the standards about biometrics, there are a lot of them. That's a lot. Yeah, being a mobile developers, you most likely would need to develop this biometric stuff with the face recognition, with the fingerprint or something, because the wallet is the point where you need either to let user use that or not, or where you need to person to collect the data from the physical body, because mobile device is a device is closest to the user. And for that, I even put the picture of describing the structure of the standards, because you can easily to be lost in this. And face recognition, fingerprint, eye scan, this all there are quite some of the help for the developers in terms of the standards. For IT security, we're coming for even more complex structure. And the most important here is identity management and privacy technologies. And again, you see the number of standards. It should help you to navigate in the amount of the documentation. And obviously, the presentation will be shared with you. And we are coming to the third pillar of those standards, and it's American organization. NICT, who speaks over, again, digital identity guidelines, blockchain technology, federation and assertions. So you can see the structure by different organizations. They are similar. They are, in many cases, they're very similar standards. They really, it can be easily interpreted. They're not the same, but they're very, very close to each other. And yeah, I'm done, actually. I'm thinking that I introduced the topic for you well enough so you can navigate already in a space. And as I already said, there are a lot of applications of blockchain, but the decentralized ledgers and those decentralized databases, in a majority, those are backend technologies. And when we are speaking about the front end, where the mobile is, that's normally in terms of the wallets. And if somebody were if not identity, the next topic of presenting would be cryptocurrency wallets. And probably next time I will speak about that.
Thank you very much. And we actually have a question, and let us discuss one topic here. So the question is could it be possible to verify the identity without having to connect to some kind of blockchain network in case of disasters or blackout situations? Do we have something which might be used on the devices which we have by hand?
Well, as I said, it depends of what you want to verify. Identity itself, identify the person, so have the passport, yes. Then digital signature. And basically, if your identity does not change over the time, then you can validate that. So basically, the basic ones, they're always done without any connections. That's when you have some intricate attributes. Think about marriage. Think about health certificates. Those you will need access to the network.
Yeah,
but for the normal producers,
yeah, probably for this case, it's something basically to identify yourself, and in that particular case. Okay, and that's probably it for now. And thank you very much for your extensive talk on identity solutions for the mobile. And this concludes our first day of Mobile Z Days conference. Thank you very much. And everybody who are on the stream right now, we are waiting for you tomorrow with the new talks. And again, I would like to announce that on Thursday, closing event will be Mobile People Talks podcast live show. We will be discussing cross-platform versus native and everything else. Thank you very much, and have a good day. or night.
Thank you for having me. And
Bye.
probably the last word, if you would like to join the blockchain crowd, just drop me an email. Yeah.